Hello, I'm Chase, and I suck at reading, but I'm trying to start reading for fun. In this video, I'm going to talk about how I struggled with reading as a child, how it still affects me in my day-to-day as an adult, and why I'm trying to get invested in reading as a fun hobby to begin with. And before I get into it, I know some of you are thinking, isn't this guy a teacher? I am, and it does affect my work, and I'm going to talk about that in the second part. So, to start, when I was a child, comprehension was a big struggle for me when it came to reading. I could read an entire page or section in a textbook, but then I couldn't remember anything that I just read. It was as if I was reading it, but nothing was being retained. I would just read the words on the page, but nothing that I read actually stuck. And this followed me through elementary school, middle school, and into high school, and even into college. I had this struggle where I would be reading something for an assignment, and I'd have to read it 3, 4, 5 times before I finally understood what I was reading. And as you can assume, this struggle kind of put a bad taste for reading in my mouth, and I didn't necessarily want to read because I knew every time I would read, I would struggle with it. So it was this bad cycle of struggling with reading, which made me not want to read, which made me struggle more, and it was just this repetitive circle. Moving into my adult life and the career I'm working in now, I never really read outside of what I had to. Obviously, I read the textbook and the curriculum I needed to for getting my degrees, but outside of that, I never found interest in picking up a book and reading for fun. And it does directly affect my work. As some of you may know, I'm an elementary school teacher, and there's times where I lack the confidence to read in front of these children because I'm afraid I'm going to read something wrong, or I'm going to read something and not remember what I just read to them and have to reread it, and so on. I do believe that this exposure therapy, reading every single day for quite some time in front of the class, whether it's curriculum or guided reading or what have it, I feel like this has definitely pushed me into reading more and pushed me into being more comfortable with reading, but there is still times where I read a word and I'm unsure if I said it right, and then I spiral, and I hope my kids don't see it, but I definitely can tell that I get flustered and start stumbling over my words, and I have to usually take a break at that point. So this all kind of wraps up to, why am I wanting to read for fun if I struggle so much with it? There's a couple different factors at play. One of them is my partner, Allie. She loves to read. She'll sit down and read a several hundred-page book in a day if she wants to. Another thing, which I plan on making a whole separate video on later on, is I need to cut my screen time down. I feel like 2026 is the year that everyone's kind of realizing that we're just rotting our brains and we need to step away from that. So what better way than to dive into the educational and entertainment world of reading? So the first book that I fully read for fun was Hardcore Zen. It's all about Zen Buddhism, and I find the ideals and philosophy behind Buddhism very intriguing and aligned with different aspects of my life. So I decided that I wanted to read this book. It's written from a guy that was into a punk rock band, as well as he made movies and moved to Japan and all that fun stuff. So I felt very intrigued by the author as well as just the content it talked about. I will say, even though this was a good read, I struggled with this book a lot. Not because of the author or because of the content, but because of it being so educational and a lot of deep thinking. There was a lot of times where I had to stop and go back and reread entire chapters because I got to a point where I didn't fully understand what I was reading. So would I recommend this as a first read? Maybe not. Would I recommend this book? Yes. Moving forward, there's a couple books I'm actively reading. The first one is Mooncallers by Lita Muir. If that name sounds familiar, she's a YouTuber that used to make content a long time ago under the name Lita Monster Bunny. She has 2 books in this series so far, and it's a fantasy book following this individual character and some of the quests that they go on. I will say, is this a good book? Yes. Is it a good book to start with if you're getting into reading? I wouldn't say so, because fantasy books in general, there's so many unique names and so many places and so many different things to keep track of that, again, I tend to have to go back and reread or flip to the back to see who someone is, because there's a lot going on. Not the fault of the author, more so the fault of the reader. About a quarter of the way through this book, it's definitely a slow read for me, just a lot of bouncing back and forth and trying to stay caught up with everything, but I'm enjoying it so far. The other series I'm reading is the Freerun series. I got recommended this from a friend that really enjoyed it, so I decided to pick it up, and I've been really enjoying it so far. It too is a very fantasy-esque vibe, following a elf mage and all of the things that she's experiencing. It's just a lot easier to stay on track with because it's a manga, so there's images to kind of see what's happening. It's a really easy and quick read, but I'm really enjoying it. It makes me feel good whenever I can complete one of these books because then I feel like I'm marking a book off my list a lot quicker. So my goal for the rest of 2026 is to finish 10 books. I am rapidly approaching the halfway point, and I am about halfway through the year, so I definitely feel as though I can do it. But this is where I'm going to end the video. So thank you so much for watching. Comment, subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you too struggle with reading, let me know that I'm not alone, and let me know if what you're reading, maybe something that you'd recommend for me to read. I'm kind of all over the place. I don't really have anything specific that I want to read or that I'm interested in. So if you have a recommendation for me to read, leave it in the comments. But that's all I have for this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. See ya.